26. I'm letting them make
for some kind of inside movement. Someone coming off a pick. Oh, it's good!
Look at the tri-state.
It is the Kark Report, and it is so good to have him. Kark really working hard today. I mean, he knows all these guys. He also stopped over at Darien to see Darien New Canaan. That is a great lacrosse rivalry. Kark, was the game good? Were there moments that you thought New Canaan had a chance?
You know, in that first quarter, Quickie, it was 3-1, Darien leading. But once the second quarter kind of rolled around, I felt like the momentum certainly was with Darien. Just their full field presence. They ran a lot better than New Canaan today. And Case Mathias and the West kid at midfield, I thought they were sensational. Here's a look at Bobby Weaver, who shakes the defense. But Thomas Carey in the goal for New Canaan, he was the bright spot. I thought he was fabulous. He's going to Bryant. He could start as a freshman. They're losing Jamison Love, a Darien graduate who started and was fabulous for 4 years for the Bulldogs up in Rhode Island. I think Carey can step in, but too much Case Mathias. 5 goals on the afternoon. You saw that last move, just so smooth, and he made his presence felt. He looks like he's on a mission. After being injured last year, I think he's playing with a chip on his shoulder and wants to be the best player out there, and he took that game over today.
Hey, Kark, the last highlight we saw, very excited about this Phil Hufford kid, the sophomore goalie for Braemar. Watched him against Wilton. I'll tell you, he's got some chops in those pipes.
He does. He's a little undersized, Quickie, but his outlet passing, I thought, is sensational. He had a couple darts today where he just made the save, got it out in transition, and that's where the game was won. Outside of Mathias being so strong at the attack spot, I thought their midfield ran better than New Canaan in transition and gave those guys opportunities.
All right, Kark, you've been watching the show. Our Twitter question of the day, who's the top boys lacrosse player on Long Island? We're getting a lot of guys with names of guys that you're going to mention tonight. So we're going to put you on the spot. This is the hardest region because they're the most players. At number 10, you're going with Ryan Palasek, Rocky Point, going to Syracuse, your alma mater.
What separates Palasek is his stick skills. I think that he's so strong when the ball's on the floor. He makes plays. He can ignite transition. When you look at his skill set, I think it's probably the strongest in the tri-state when the ball's in his stick because he's like another offensive player out there. There are defenders out there, I think, that shut down better, but Palasek's stick skills are superb.
Hey, out at Port Washington, Kark, Jake Ficcaro, this dude is a sniper going to Princeton next year. 6'1", 180, he can rip it with the best of them.
His stick skills are fabulous as well. When you look at his overall skill set, they ask him to do so much at Port Washington. He faces off at an elite level. He plays defense. He's on the extra man, obviously. I just love his shake. He reminds me so much of his older brother as a star at Princeton. They're face-off men with elite offensive skills, and you don't see that a lot. And Ficcaro can let it rip, man. He can really shoot the ball.
Hey, Kark. First time I saw big number 31 from Chaminade, Brian Dunn. You were working a college game. I got on the horn. I said, Kark, who is this guy? Because he's an unbelievable athlete running around with a big stick.
You know, it's almost unfair. You don't get to see these Chaminade kids until their junior year. But Dunn, wow, he reminds me a lot of Jack Lambert up at John Jay. These two kids run the field. They can defend. This kid's a beast, and he really fits that mold of a Duke defender. Big, strong, great on the floor. A game changer. Just imagine this kid playing JV last year. It's almost a joke when you think about it. He's all over ground balls. He's tenacious. He's fearless. I love this kid. He'll play early for John Danowski at Duke.
He is absolutely sensational. Every time I go out and watch him, I just fall in love with his game. Danny Marino. Oh, boy. Virginia getting a good one. He gets inside those pipes and says, bring it on, brother.
Wow. Probably the surprise player early on in the tri-state. And I say this because he's much heralded. Everyone knows about the kid. But they lost their entire close defense, and this kid is standing on his head. Not only is he saving the ball, he's conducting the defense. His outlets are great. There's a vacancy next year down in Charlottesville in the cage. Rob Fortunato's graduating. This kid could start as a freshman because he has that complete game.
Kark, if we revisit this in 4 years, I bet you we're going to look back and say Sam Linares from Hauppauge is going to be up higher on that list when he gets to college. His upside is good as anybody on your top 10.
I mean, Quickie, this kid is sensational and the most underrated player on the Long Island, maybe the entire tri-state. People aren't speaking about him because he's not the type of player that's been all over the summer circuit the last few years. He's playing on an offense where has the reins, the handcuffs are off. His coach, Jim Conan, is the best player or coach for a player like a Sam Linares because he lets him go. He plays attack, midfield. I spoke to Seth Tierney last weekend, and we were talking about Linares. He just had a wide grin. You know this kid is stepping on the field early for Hofstra because he's so versatile. He could play attack, midfield, can run the field. Linares is the real deal.
How quickly will Trevor Brosco from Shoreham-Wading River get on the field for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame?
Can you say day one? Like Linares, a jack of all trades, but add to the whole equation that he faces off at an elite level. I think Brosco, soup to nuts, is the most complete midfielder in the entire tri-state because of this right here. You see him. He's got a little pinch and pop, can run the break, plays defense. I saw him in the summer 2 years ago. I couldn't stop talking about this kid because he's an old school midi, a throwback, in-your-face guy, plays offense, defense, all over the field. Trevor Brosco's for real.
Kark, when your dad's a great coach, how much does it help you becoming a great player? Because Tim Rotanz is the son of legendary Shoreham-Wading River coach Tom Rotanz. You have him at number 4 on Long Island.
He's a pick-your-poison type of guy, Quickie, because he's 50-50, and when I say that, his numbers are so equal, a lot like Nicky Galasso's were a few years ago when he played for West Islip. He could beat you off the dodge, he's a scorer, but he's a great feeder. As a sophomore on Long Island, he led the entire island in points, and he was 50-50, over 50 goals, over 50 assists. You don't see that unless it's a player who has that lacrosse IQ, and the game has evolved with Rotanz. I think he has the potential to be one of the all-time greats when he leaves the island. That's saying a lot. A short list of outstanding attackmen. Rotanz will be there.
Here's another great attackman, Devin Dwyer, and off the game he had against Conestoga, boy, I tell you, he made a case for being number 1. You have him at number 3. Harvard getting another great kid from Garden City.
Almost unfair how I have to break down this top 10. You can argue any of these guys number 1, but Devin Dwyer, a lot like Rotanz, his dad's a coach. Doug Dwyer was a coach for many years, a lacrosse legend on the island. It's the lacrosse IQ. It's the ability to see the field, find seams in a defense. He's the best pure passer, maybe in the country. He'll start at Harvard, I guarantee, as a freshman, because he gets the game, he can feed, he can score now, too, and that's really where his game's evolving. He was known as a feeder in the past, but he'll burn you scoring as well.
At number 2, James Pinnell, who's as hungry as any player in the tri-state after being stopped on the doorstep last year by Turry.
Well, he's getting his opportunities in 2012, and he's dominating. And his game is so similar to his brother, Rob Pinnell, the All-American, who's on the shelf right now at Cornell, because they're really these bowling ball type players. You can't push this kid out. You watch the video, teams try to play physical with him. He's not tall, but he's a fire hydrant. His low center of gravity can rip the ball from the outside, a tremendous feeder. Another guy, I sound redundant, will play for a top program at UVA as a freshman, and that's the beauty of Long Island lacrosse. It's the best in the country. So I'm not just throwing these things out there. These kids will play as freshmen.
Kark, I know you have a college game and you have to leave Thursday night, but boy, you'd be loving the Bobby Duvniak-Case Mathias matchup, and you have Big Bob as your number 1 player on Long Island, a stud defenseman.
I mean, this isn't just a tri-state matchup, Quickie. This is a national matchup. The best attackman in the country in Mathias against the best defenseman in the country, too. Duvniak brings it. He's a man amongst boys, physically imposes his will on the opposition, stick work, feet, total package. I can't say enough about this kid, and I love the fact that he brings it every single game, a tireless worker, a motor that never ends. Bobby Duvniak is the real deal, Quickie. I mean, he's the type of player, you might not see a defenseman on Long Island for a few years to come across like a Bobby Duvniak. He's that special.
Well, Kark, these are your top 10. Next week, we're going to put the guys who are knocking on the door because the season is still a long way to go. We're running out of time. We'll do that next week. We'll also hopefully do some guys from Connecticut. Maybe we'll push that off for another week or two. You are the man, Kark. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Quick.